one has to start out with the premise that you've already been compromised, because most organizations have been compromised. And so you build your strategy based upon that premise to limit the damage of a potential attack. So you think of a cybersecurity attack as an infection. You have to have a system to detect the infection, you have to have a system to contain the infection, prevent it from spreading, and you have to have a system to recover from the infection. So there's different types of technologies that allow you to do that, and they have capabilities such as detection and remediation, and those are endpoint protection and advanced persistent threat protections. But you also need to maintain good hygiene, and what we're talking about here is regular checkups, health checkups, and those in the cybersecurity industry are called vulnerability assessments and penetration tests. Well, that is very difficult to determine. So one of the things that we offer is a data risk assessment to try to help companies identify those critical assets. Every single company is different. If you look at most intellectual property, most of the intellectual property is actually going to be found in emails. So that's the first thing you should look at, is to encrypt your email traffic, not only at rest but in transit, to make sure that your partners, if you're talking about a M&A, a merger and acquisition, if the bank supporting this doesn't have that encryption on the emails, then you're going to be really susceptible to an attack. And the attackers, of course, will find this information and exploit it and buy your stock, and before it goes public or before it's bought. Very, very important is limiting the access to these critical assets. And the technology there is user authentication, encryption, data loss prevention, data rights management. Those are very, very important as well. So the third cornerstone is engaging with the people who are using and creating those critical assets. So what we're talking about here is engaging them with security education training and programs, awareness programs, and we offer those, and we customize these for companies so that these employees can recognize and prevent phishing attempts. And so these are 90% of the time an attack begins with a phishing attempt. And I can go in and explain what that is. But these are the usual way that attackers get into companies, because it's so much easier to try to get in through people than it is to try to break through a perimeter protection wall. Because as we talked about, the people are the weakest link in the chain. You want to always have good ethics. That's very important, especially in a world where people aren't always ethical. And I think people want to deal with people who are ethical. You want to have collaboration and teamwork within the company, but also with your partners, because you can't do it yourself. And you also want to have a situation where you're looking at the long term and you're not looking at the short term. Cybersecurity is not going to go away. It's going to only get worse. And we are building a business that is going to last, I hope, a very long time. And so we are looking not at just tomorrow or the next week or the next year, but years from now.